Hello, and welcome to Philip Brown's Computer Networking Lab. You're watching the instructional video called Internet Security and Acceleration Configuration. We are looking at the ISA server. Our goal for this video is to take a look at the basic features of the Internet Security and Acceleration server. Let's take a quick overview of its features. The ISA Server Manager Console. We're mainly going to focus on the firewall features of this application. The items listed under the array icon gives us control over the firewall features on this server. Let's click on the monitoring icon. As you can see, the work pane shows a number of tabs, and each tab monitors certain elements of the firewall. As you can see, each tab monitors different sections of the firewall. Now let's click on the firewall policy icon. The firewall policy allows us to control what types of packets can go from one network area to another network area. It allows us to control the types of packets that can go back and forth and what IP address that it will allow or block. They also have the toolbox that allows us to define different objects used by the ISA firewall program. This allows us to control what computers can manage the ISA server. The ISA server can also set up VPN sessions, both site-to-site and individual users who want to connect to our internal network. And here on the configuration tab, we have several choices. The server tab identifies servers that are part of ISA, and this network tab allows us to define several network objects. Here we can see that there are internal, external, VPNs, and here are network sets, which are a combination of networks together or considered one. Here we have network rules, where we can define how one network connects to another, whether it uses a normal route or not. Let's take a look at one of them. Here we can see that the network source, destination, and whether it's a NAT or normal route is identified. And here we have a number of different templates that we can use. We can define the type of architecture we want our network to resemble using these basic choices. We do not have to use these choices, but these are simply templates. And this is cache memory for websites that was previously visited. They can be held so that if anybody else requests a website from the same place, the cache can just simply serve up what they have from memory. And here are a number of filters that can be used in the firewall policy. And this general tab allows us to administrate over the ISA server. They have a number of options to help us control the server. Now let's create a new network. I'm going to create a perimeter network known as a DMZ, or demilitarized zone. I'll put the range of IP addresses of the demilitarized zone here. Okay, I'll save the changes now. Now let me create a network path that will go from the internet to the demilitarized zone. I'll just simply add my newly created network into the source list and then save the changes. I also want my demilitarized zone to be able to access the local LAN, so I'm going to have to create another route for that. Now to save the changes, take a look at the new addition to the network rules. Okay, now we set up our network and our network rules, but unless we create a firewall policy, nothing will change on how the ISA server handles packets. I'll click on the new access rule to open up a wizard that will create a policy. This policy will allow packets to go from the DMZ to the LAN and vice versa. I want it to accept all the protocols. Now I have to choose the source location. I'll choose the external network. And I'll make the destination the DMZ. I could require the authentication of users, but I want to allow everyone to be able to use this without authentication. Now I'll save the changes. Here goes our new policy. Now let's publish a network protocol. I'll create a publishing rule to allow web traffic. I'll choose to allow it. This section allows us to decide what type of publishing we will have. Since I only have one single web server, I'll use the top choice. This would allow us to use SSL to encrypt our packets going from the ISA server to our internal web server. But to make things simple, I'll choose to not use the SSL so I don't have to create a self-signed certificate. And this is the internal name for our web server. I'll call it www.philipbrown.local. And just in case the ISA server has a problem with that name, it can use this IP address. Now I have to tell it what path I want it to use. I could choose something like mail, but I'm going to use the default wildcard so that every path will be chosen. And this little checkbox allows us to choose between using the IP address and the actual name as being in the header. And here we can pick the public name that we want or to choose all domains. Now we need to create a listener for the particular port that the web server packets will trigger when they access the interface. I would just call it web listener. And at this point, we can choose if we want the information to be encrypted going to the web server. I'll choose the simplest but less secure choice. And this is the interface that we want the web listener to be on. And this will be the type of authentication that we'll use. I don't want the users to have to use any authentication. Since we don't have authentication, this is not necessary. Now we have our web listener. And this gives us choices on the authentication delegation. Here I'll choose all users because I don't want to use any authentication. Here goes our web listener. I'll save the changes. In this video, we saw how the ISA server could be used as a basic firewall to protect our network. I hope this video has been informative, and I thank you for viewing.